Hi, thanks for joining me. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Joe Biden and his run for candidacy of the Democratic Party. Well, quite frankly, it was the Democratic Party who now has pretty much assassinated his character. As far as the right is concerned with Joe Biden, we always known him as Creepy Joe, right? Creepy Uncle Joe. And this is going back, like 10 years. Joe Biden's always been known as Creepy Joe Biden because he is basically touchy feely, little girls you can't resist kind of guy, right? And now nobody's ever said that he was a pedophile. Nobody's ever claimed that he was a rapist or anything like that. But he is very kind of touchy feely. That makes him like invade your space kind of guy, and he is quite creepy. So that's like what he is to the right for a very long period of time. That's how we know him. But it's funny that once he threw his hat into the candidacy for the presidency, he all of a sudden got character assassinated by the far left. And it's the social democrats in the United States. And it's hilarious to see because, quite frankly, Joe Biden, no matter what he is, what we think he still has the best shot to beat Donald Trump. I don't think he's going to win against Donald Trump, but he has, up till now, the best shot of all the candidates to actually beat Donald Trump. He's still got something of the middle white American vote. Whatever's left for the Democrats in that area, he's still got that, right? And then he's, of course, anything left of that, he'll get the vote. So he is really the one natural candidate so far. Until now, they just got a bunch of clowns. Kamala Harris and Beto O'Rourke. These guys are ridiculous. They're just insane. They may cater to their little fraction, their little sector, and they may have enthusiasm with them. But across North America, they have little enthusiasm at all. Beto O'Rourke, maybe at one time he was seen, like when he wasn't, so known, he was more of a mystery guy. He seemed to have maybe a bit more appeal, but now people know him. He's just a big soy boy that, will sell you out and, with two wooden nickels. Like he doesn't really have any scruples, really, basically. So the whole funny thing is the reaction of the left, and it has the social democrats, as now they're going to be known, and pretty soon it's just going to be socialist. Let's face it, in a few years the Democrat part is going to be dropped right out. They're not going to be wanting any kind of affiliation with democracy whatsoever. They're pure socialists. That's where they're going. They're the ones who did Joe Biden in. They're the ones. They're the ones who basically assassinated whatever attempt. Joe Biden should just drop out. He's got off to such a rocky start that there's no way that I think he can recover. Only with help from the still encumbered central powers of the Democratic Party, like Nancy Pelosi, will he ever have a chance again? But he's got to rein in all that criticism from left of what he is, because they just basically destroyed any chance of him getting nominated in the primary. So that just leaves you, why does the left do this? Well, if you look at the left, it's basically their nature. It's kind of like that little story with the scorpion riding on the frog's back. If you don't know it, a scorpion takes a ride on the frog's back to go across a pond, and he stings him in the middle of the pond, and the frog turns to the scorpion and says, "Why'd you do that? Now we're both going to die." And the scorpion says, "It's in my nature." And that's the nature of the leftists. And if you don't believe that, look at all the leftist parties. If you look at even somebody like Lenin, for example, Lenin did not get voted in. People don't realize this, that when there was an actual vote in Bolshevik Russia, Lenin got a very small number of votes. It was more the moderate communists. It was the moderates who got the majority of the vote in a big way. Lenin got something like 11, 12% of the vote. He got very little. But he still, because it's the nature of the left, he still persisted. And he still then used tactics that he used against Tsarist Russia against the moderate communists. And then eventually they submitted and they gave the power to him, because his tactics were brutal. I mean, some of them were just totally brutal. Same thing like against the Tsars. So that started a whole trend of moving farther and farther and farther into extremism until you got a crazy bastard, Stalin, who was a nut job. And this is true with all socialist parties. If you look at Hitler, Hitler was the one exception where, well, he's not the one exception, but he is a person who maintained control throughout. And that's because he was not afraid. And he was smart enough, and I'm not, honoring the guy, but he was clever enough to eliminate his opponents, like Rome, for example, at the crucial time. So he eliminated his competition. I mean, and then everybody else basically feared him. And the same thing with Stalin, same thing with Mao. All these people, basically started to get consolidation of power, and they had government working like socialists who were spying on each other, and there was no free rights, and there were no free speech and all that stuff. So they basically just kept consuming more and more power over the people, where the people were just totally afraid to do anything against them. Stalin, for example, would instill fear by just going out randomly and having 1,000 people murdered. He would just go out and say to the army, go murder 1,000 people. And they would say, why? Because fear is a great motivator. And you think about that, because without that super fear, nothing would have got done in Russia. Nothing. The only reason why people still went to the factories in those early days of socialism, communism in Russia, is because out of pure fear that they could have been shot. And this happened frequently. It happened in the army, it happened in the government, it happened in agriculture. If you didn't work hard enough, you were killed. It's all over Russia. So this kind of ideology is natural for the socialists. They continuously move in that direction. It doesn't matter what somebody like AOC says. When they say, oh, the Republicans don't have morals. No, we do have morals. We have a standard. It's you and the left who have eliminated those standards and allowed it to slide completely into some socialist pit. And that's where that's where basically the socialists in America are going. Eventually they're going to have their Stalin, their Hitler, their Mao. And that's what's going to happen there, because that's how they're going. They don't look at facts. They don't look at sensibility. They don't even care if their economic policies make sense. They're throwing them out there, and they're trying to get a base, even if it's a small base, comparatively speaking. They're still trying to get an enthusiastic base, because one thing that the socialists do realize is that 1,000 enthusiasts are better than 100,000, guys who aren't going to back their party that much. And that's why people like Lenin and Hitler and Mao tend to go to power and stay in power. And that's, unfortunately, that is where we're heading. And all these governments like Macron and Trudeau, if they're not defeated, they're just going to continuously slide, and our rights are going to be taken away. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you.